Okay, everybody, thanks for coming back to us. We've got Dan Schiller. Oh my goodness, Dan Silvershein at Collectable. Thanks so much for being here, Dan. It's pretty cool having you on because I've really only interacted with you through Facebook, but here you are.
Yeah, I'm
super
glad
excited
to
to have you talk about Collectable. Yeah, thanks for being here. And I guess so. Since I only know you through Facebook, I've never had a chance to really know your hobby story. You want to tell us a little bit about that and like why cards, why memorabilia?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think like a lot of people, I grew up collecting. I grew up during the junk era, so cards were absolutely everywhere. It wasn't like now where you can't find them on the shelves and everyone's getting retail ripped away from them. I remember growing up playing Little League and then walking over to the card shop that was 5-minute walk from the Little League fields and buying packs of cards.
Right.
All the way through my youth, collected, kind of fell out of it, I would say, in high school and college. Some other stuff took priority, a little distracted. After college, really, I've worked in sports my entire career. So I've worked in sports media. I worked for a sports agency, sports marketing. I managed the e-com team for one of the larger sports memorabilia companies out there before I joined Collectable. So that kind of got me back into collecting in a much bigger way. And I guess it was sort of at a good time, probably 5 or 6 years ago, before the real sort of mini boom ahead of this big boom. And it kind of got me hooked again. And here we are.
That's awesome.
Here you are. Yep. You went from a Facebook group interaction with me to a Raz over, I think it was Upper Deck Supreme Court, Supreme Hard Court. I think that was my first thing you ever shipped to me. Not from Fanatics, but yeah, from Upper Deck. That was pretty fun.
Yep.
But yeah, no, I mean, it's crazy. So you're the head of acquisitions at Collectable currently. And prior to that, you had hinted that you were working for Fanatics, kind of as the senior account executive there.
Yep.
But now you're just responsible for the super high profile, high clientele collection. And it's just crazy.
Not just high clientele. He has over 5,000 individual collectible acquisitions. And Dan, if you don't mind, after this interview, I'll give you the link to my eBay store.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've got some sick Jeff Malone Mojo prisms up there.
Can offer fractional ownership at a record low 5 cents a share.
We'll pay stocks, you baby, to own a piece of this card.
I've heard you get ripped on for your Jeff Malone affinity before a little bit. What is it? The third best Malone in the NBA? Is that what you're saying?
Hey, watch it. Okay, so I want to get into Collectable. Now, for those listening, Collectable is an investing platform and community for sports fans. It's the first and only fractional ownership platform exclusively dedicated to sports. So what they've done is effectively you can buy, correct me if I'm wrong on this, Dan, shares in high value cards. Is that correct?
It's exactly right. So what we end up doing is it's cards and memorabilia. We'll turn it into a fully SEC regulated security. Everything we do is regulated by the SEC. So when you create an account with us, it's going to ask you for your social security number, your income, your address, all the things you would need to do to verify and open an account with like a Robinhood or an E-Trade.
Okay. So
when you take that, all these sort of IPOs now that we call them are going to be regulated by the SEC. So for example, we'll take a $500,000 card and turn it into 50,000 shares at $10 a share and essentially open it up to the public to fund that item through those shares.
Okay. And,
so hold on, let's pause there for a second, Ricky. This guy, Dan, you're right. This asks about everything. It asked about my social security number, my high school nicknames, if I wear nipple clamps, like everything under the sun terrified me. And these two guys that we're sitting here with the first time talked me into it before Collectable really exploded. And I ended up buying into one of the very first things, and I had no clue what was happening. And I was absolutely terrified. So Can you expand upon that part a little bit and maybe calm some of the fears of our listeners who try to sign up for this? Because to be honest with you, I was very nervous and hesitant about this going through that part of the process. I know it's legit, but I know I'm not the only one who was worried about that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you're not the first one I've heard it from. It's a lot of information for something when you're thinking about, I'm just buying a card. eBay's not asking you for this. A lot of places aren't. But if we know anything, it's that the US government is very nosy. They want to know everything about you. So it almost should make you feel a little more secure that everything we do is under the microscope of the government and under the SEC. So all the information you're being asked for is on their behalf, not ours.
Now, my question is, what happens with all these cards? Where are they stored? What is the goal? Is it the goal to keep them in storage long term in, very safe storage, for lack of a better term, ideal storage, and then just allowing that card to sit in storage representing the stock that people have bought?
Essentially, yes. We have a couple different secure locations. Everything's fully insured and very secured in vaults. We have one in the Northeast. We use the PWCC vault for some of our cards. There's a secure vault that we use for our memorabilia, actually with Sports Immortals down in Florida, who's our large memorabilia partner. And essentially, the long-term idea is, it's really up to the shareholders, to be honest, what happens to the items. So they're put in storage, secure storage. Obviously, they're expensive items. We want to protect them and have them safe and secure and stored correctly. And from that point forward, we've had several items that have been exited via someone making a buyout offer and the shareholders essentially being surveyed and saying, we'd like to accept this offer. At that point, the card is removed from storage and obviously sent to the new owner. But for everything else that lives on our platform and trades, yes, it'll stay in storage. Eventually, we, of course, plan on bringing some of the assets with us to National and displaying them, things like that. But the long-term plans are really up to what the shareholders dictate.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, not only could you receive value by selling your stake in the card, but if on a large scale, that if someone were to come in and say, I want this card I want to take it private, for lack of a better term, that's another great way to maybe realize some awesome value.
Yeah, and that's another way that the other sort of hurdle that people are a little turned off by, I would say, in the beginning, is the fact that your money is locked up for, 90 days right now after an IPO funds, where you can't trade your shares. People feel like they have no liquidity. It's locked up. Number one, that period's being shortened to 45 days very shortly. Number two is we still are able to take buyout offers during that time frame. And we have had 2, I believe, that were exited and accepted during that initial lockup.
Okay. That's really good information to have. Timmy, what's your next question?
Yeah. So a lot of these are basically bought and sold like commodities. I mean, the buyout option is pretty cool, but that's not the standard way that this goes on the Collectable app, right? So for most people, it's more of like a marketplace, basically. So do you feel like there's certain products or certain cards that people should really go after as far as like just a starting point, an entry point, or like for the risk averse?
Blue chip, or is Luca a bust?
That's inquiring minds want to know at this point. That's true.
Of course. So I do have to be careful not to give anything that appears as investment advice or forward-facing projections or anything like that. Of course, everybody should do their own research and due diligence, but I'm only looking to acquire things that I consider to be blue chip, that I do think are more stable growth assets than just the standard population 10,000 Ronald Acuna Topps Update base card at $300. Like I own several of them, but I'm not considering it the same kind of investment as a PSA 9 Wilt Chamberlain rookie card.
Sure.
Yeah.
So in terms of where somebody can start, we really make it easy to have a lot of different entry points. So our individual share prices, and all you need to do to get involved is purchase a single share, range from $1, $2, $5, $10. You could really get involved at a super low price point if you just want to dip your toe in and see how it works and what the trading looks like. And it's very easy to get in.
Do you know offhand, and could you share what card is trading at the highest?
I can actually look right now. The highest overall value, I would imagine, is the 1951 PSA 10 mantle that we had. I would believe that's the highest overall market cap right now, just off the top of my. I'm sorry, 1953 PSA 10.
Oh.
Yeah, right now that's trading at 3.05 million.
It's such an insane card.
Do you think of your, I mean, you have to have one of the best jobs out there going and finding these cards. Do you think of yourself like the guys on American Pickers who are just out searching
exactly
for
what I was thinking about?
Honestly, a little bit. It's gotten to a point now where it feels like a dream sometimes that I get to just go around and find these things. I mean, Heritage tonight has a 1916 M101 Babe Ruth ending that they're expecting to go north of 4 million. We have the other PSA 7. So like being able to find that card, I had never even seen it in print before. Forget about seeing it out in like the wild. So finding things like this is just incredible. Yes, it's pretty wild.
Now, how are you typically, other than card shows, how are you finding these cards? Are people reaching out? Are you to the point now that people are just reaching out to you left and right saying, hey, you got to check this out. I've got a lead on a really great card. Or are you still having to go digging on, I don't know, would you even dig on eBay or other options for buying?
Yeah, so from time to time we do. It's definitely one way that I sort of reach out to people. I do have sort of the luck of having the network that I have from Facebook and social media. Our team, honestly, is built full of collectors. Almost every single member of Collectable collects personally. Our cap table is full of collectors. We made a point of sort of building this company full of collectors. Number one, because that's who we're designing this for. And number two, because it does really give us a crazy widespread network to source some really great stuff through.
Okay. That's awesome. That is incredible.
Yeah, and that really seems to be what the hobby's about, is networking, right? I mean, so here we are sitting across a virtual table from a high-powered executive like yourself, and we've shared razzes together.
Yeah, it's a little generous calling me a high-powered executive, but yeah, it's interesting at this point just how much networking is involved, and it really helps to be quote unquote an insider. Well, I mean, this hobby at the upper levels really is not a huge fan of outsiders, so it's helpful.
Yeah. And while we're correcting Tim, by razzing, he means he's been paying for a lot of your cards in
if only.
No. So here's a good analogy, though. You know, fractional card ownership is like a 1,000 spot mega razz where you're all paying into it, but you actually own a piece of it instead of actually paying for it for the one winner. So you all get a piece of that Babe Ruth card.
Because we do try and present the best possible investment on the sort of IPO side as well. So while you might find a mega that's, I don't know, a $15,000 card that's 1,000 spots at $16, we do strive to be on the other end of that spectrum if possible. You're not going to be overpaying for a card just because we're slicing it up.
Okay.
Has there been any thought to distributing a certificate or something that investors can hold in their hands? So Ricky is a partial owner of Lambeau Field and the Packers, correct, Ricky? And you've got like a little certificate showing as much.
Right.
I know that I could see where that could get hairy pretty quickly, especially if people sold their shares and then they have a certificate saying, hey, I still have shares. But has there been any thought or talk that you can speak to about that?
Yeah, we've discussed coming up with some sort of physical token program. We've also pivoted a little bit now to almost coming up with some sort of non-physical token, almost an NFT style, where on your app possibly you may be able to have your portfolio sort of on display that way. But we have discussed having a physical token as well that sort of represents your purchase in the IPO. It wouldn't be a stock certificate that's redeemable for anything. So if someone does sell their shares, it then just becomes sort of like a cool niche collectible that they have. But yes, there has been a lot of discussion. We're trying to figure out the best way to do it.
I'm guessing the timeshare model didn't get off the ground very far.
No, probably not.
All right. Well, thank you again, Dan, for coming on with us. You guys can check out Fractional Card Ownership. Go check them out. Chad had a funny experience to begin with. I have a feeling that we all might be dabbing our toes in this in sooner than later.
It's fun.
It seems like a lot of fun, and especially as the COVID fog lifts, I'm really excited to see what they're going to offer just as far as interaction with customers, Dan.
Yeah, definitely keep an eye out. There's some fun stuff being planned, so it'll be exciting.